Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I'm going to be talking about it all right here in my review after seeing it, and there will be spoilers because I have to talk about the ending. I have to. So that is your warning, and I am done warning you. I really liked this movie. There's a bit of a divide on how people feel about this movie. Some would rank it as the worst above the prequels. Some would rank it high, close to A New Hope. It's definitely not the best, and I also don't think it's the lowest either. It's really, I don't know how else to say it. It's very good, and it did meet expectations. It does have its flaws, but it also has a lot of high points that I think it brings to the Star Wars series that we have not seen, at least cinematically, before. I think if you've gotten into the extended universe a bit, you're going to appreciate a lot there is to have seen in this movie. I think the visuals are spot on for what I imagined this world would be at this point in time, and it's very good in that way. And what I love the best about this movie is this level of uncertainty. I mean, all of the main characters that are released here or shown here for the first time are, you know, I would say, I guess, low stakes characters. They're not Luke Skywalker, they're not Leia Organa. They are characters that you're not sure if they're gonna be around later. And they have that level of walking into war or being kind of conscripted into war and not knowing what's going to happen and still making that decision anyway to be brave and to fight. I think it very much toys with the idea of the unsung, unrecognized, maybe forgotten hero, because as we look forward, these characters are kind of just, you know, when they talk about, oh, getting the Death Star plans, it's just like some brave rebels just went out there and did it, and then they're just kind of lost to the annals of Star Wars history, which is sad, but it's a truth that happens in war. It's interesting that it goes to that level of meta-narrative, which is, well, they're not important characters, so what is going to happen to them? They still matter, and there's the idea that everyone is the main character of a story. Sometimes the stories don't end up well, which is a reality of war that we forget when looking at these grand spectacles. Here's the spoiler: every character dies at the end. And I think that was probably, I mean, it's not an unexpected choice. I think it's a realization you come to at some point in the last quarter of the movie that this is probably going to happen. And I think this is something the characters themselves all realize, at least at one point, and make their own peace with, whether going out in a big way or closing your eyes and hoping and knowing. Hope is clearly a big part of this movie. It is a theme repeated over and over and over. And it's something that I think is severely underrated as a concept in the Star Wars series and in reality. And I really appreciated that. I loved the idea that this is a closed narrative movie. It has a beginning and it has an end. And this is something that often gets overlooked in the spectacles or in franchises. I mean, Star Wars, great story. However, I don't know if it truly has an end if we're introducing these characters into the main Skywalker family storyline. It could go on indefinitely. I don't know. But this one had a beginning and had an end, which is something I would like to see more in Western cinema and Western television, and I appreciated that choice to be made. There's a huge idea of sacrifice and self-sacrifice in this movie that I appreciated a lot, with the Urso family in particular, and I thought it was sweet. It brought tears to my eyes because you forget these things that are truths and our realities, eventualities. If Luke Skywalker is going to get his 1 in a million chance, something had to lead up to it, and this is what it was. And I appreciated that narrative. There are, of course, references to the larger story, A New Hope. There is another cool choice, which is no Jedi. I wanted to see this in Star Wars 1313, which was a canceled video game, and this one delivered. There is a character who kind of is with the Force, but he's not a Jedi. And I did appreciate that level of that creation of a character. And of course, we talked before about there being politics in Star Wars as a whole. And remember, Bob Iger said there's no politics in the story. And then that I counter-argued, there's some just by the level of what counts as politics now. We have an effortlessly diverse cast, which I thought they all pulled their own weight. In particular, Donnie Yen and Wen Jiang were my favorites, and I love their dynamic, and I love the idea of these kind of guardian characters who I had never really considered, at least too much in the past, and people who are maybe not Jedi, but are one with the Force is with them. I thought it was great. I loved digging into those characters. This is on a personal note now. I always wanted to see more of what the rebellion was like, what kind of people are in the rebellion. And we have Cassian, who is not, he's not a perfect hero. He does some shitty things in this movie. And it's the idea that all types would come together and work for a good together. And that doesn't always work out, as we saw around that roundtable discussion. Yeah, this goes back to Friends and I arguing, because I heavily identify with the Rebel Alliance, and I've been told, oh, you seem more like an Imperial, which is no. There are jerks in the Alliance too, and I can be there. Damn it. That is a personal note. There are some problems with this. For instance, there is a lot of fan service. At sometimes it hits the right level. At other times it goes too much. It's a little much for me. On the good side of fan service, I took notes here. Bail Organa, I liked seeing him. I liked seeing Saw Gerrera, who you may remember from the Clone Wars, who changed as a character due to a death. I also liked the Bacta tank being reintroduced again. I mean, of course he's in there trying to heal. I liked red and gold leaders, squads. I don't know how much of that footage was rotoscoped or reused, or at least used as a guide at least, but I liked that. And I liked the plans. The plans looked close to how they were shown back in the 70s. And I liked the plans' tertiary connections. We have some reference to Obi-Wan, which I liked. We have a reference to Captain Antilles, which I liked. On the bad side of fan service, I would say I didn't appreciate Ponda Baba being there, because I just I thought, isn't that a little much? Isn't this a little too convenient? Shouldn't he maybe not be at this place at this time? I didn't really care for Mustafar either. I probably mispronounced that because I've only seen it read. Shouldn't they have moved past that at that point? Anyway, that's just a minor quibble. I think the thing that most people have a problem with is the Grand Moff Tarkin CGI. It's not there. It doesn't look right. I really wish instead of CGIing a close resemblance to Peter Cushing that they had recast that role. They recast Mon Mothma, and I was fine with that. I understand who she is, and it doesn't take away from the experience, this world that I've been enveloped in. I really wish they hadn't gone that route with him. They did this with Princess Leia as well. I think better with Princess Leia, but with Tarkin, it was jarring. It was kind of like half watching maybe a sophisticated Clone Wars episode, to be fair. And it took me out, especially when we see him juxtaposed against Krennic, who is a real person. It's so stark and it's so distracting. I really wish they hadn't done this. Also, Darth Vader uses puns now. I don't remember him ever having this in his character. I really wish they hadn't done that at all. That's where fan service goes too far. There's also ships in this that never appeared in the original trilogy. I would like to know why? How come? I guess that's, probably a really nerdy nitpick that most people will not care about, but I like things to make sense, and I do think it did make sense for the most part. The world, Jeddah, for instance, looked like I would imagine Jeddah to look, and I did appreciate those scenes. I really liked Alan Tudyk as K2SO. I think he is the fan favorite, and, rightfully so. Overall, I would give it an 8.8 out of 10. I liked it a lot. Audience, how did you rate Rogue One? This is a discussion video for those of you who have seen it. So please let us know below in the comments, discuss with each other. Let's argue. but like in a cool Star Wars fan way. Please like and subscribe for more.